I do believe it's a first for the program. We reached out to a regular contributor here to the program, Bill Ballenger, who founded Inside Michigan Politics all the way back in 1987, a Flint native who has been speaking out on this ongoing situation in Flint. He sold the publication, The Property, Inside Michigan Politics, in 2013, and apparently, because of his comments regarding Flint, has been fired. But when we contacted him this morning to talk about that, apparently we were the ones to break the news that he no longer had a relationship with Inside Michigan Politics. Bill Ballenger, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve.
You were a little surprised. We didn't mean to break the news to you, but we did.
Well, actually, I didn't know that you had broken the news to me until I got another call a few minutes later from a radio station that played the tape of Susan Demas, who is the new owner of Inside Michigan Politics, saying that I would no longer be contributing to Inside Michigan Politics. So I haven't had a chance to talk to Susan yet. So next thing I knew, the phone rang, and it was you.
Yeah, well, here we are. I guess I'm surprised. You've been speaking out. You spoke on our program, this program, Monday of this week.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And said, do you think that the situation in Flint is overblown? Tell us what you really think.
Well, I can say now exactly what I said when I talked to you earlier in the week. I do think it's overblown, and I said as much on WJR radio in Detroit a couple of times, yesterday and the day before, and Brooks Patterson, the Oakland County executive, repeated my remarks in an Economic Club of Detroit forum. I think it was yesterday noon, and I got calls from the media about it, and I stood by my remarks, and I was on the taping, the live off-the-record TV program last night covering the Governor's State of the Union, State of the State message, and I basically said the same things consistently all the way along.
So you believe the situation in Flint is being dramatically overblown?
Well, certainly the political aspect of it is. I mean, a blame game is going on, Steve, where one political party in particular, the Democrats, have evidently decided they're going to make a big partisan issue out of this and blame the governor and blame Republicans in Lansing, when in fact, even though the Snyder administration and its Department of Environmental Quality obviously didn't handle this well at all and made mistakes, they were the overseers of decisions made at a local level in Genesee County and Flint by politicians who are almost uniformly Democratic. Even the emergency managers appointed by Governor Snyder in Flint had Democratic Party backgrounds. So the idea that Democrats had no responsibility for switching to the Flint River and monitoring the quality of the water there is ludicrous, and we should band together and be trying to figure out as a society, as a community in Flint and Genesee County and as a state, how do we fix the problem? How do we make sure going forward that any damage from this is minimized, and how do we make sure that it doesn't happen again in some other community? Because I got to tell you, this whole issue is a ticking time bomb all around us in various urban communities with aging infrastructure. The governor said as much last night. Everybody knows this. So that's what we should be focusing on. And
not just Michigan.
Pardon?
Not just Michigan, from Pittsburgh to Peoria and all over this country we have these issues.
Absolutely. No, Michigan is not isolated at all. I'm just pointing out we're responsible for the state primarily. That's what we're talking about.
Now, I want to jump in here because that sounds very consistent to what you told us on Monday on this program.
Yeah.
You believe this it's been overblown, that it's not to the magnitude, and it's certainly been politicized greatly.
Right.
In the press release from Susan Demas, she wrote, Bill Ballenger is not, he's entitled to his opinion, but not his own facts.
Well, I don't know what facts she has that are different from what I have been relying on. I don't know. I haven't talked with her about that. I can only say that, the samples, for instance, of lead in blood in Flint children were, when you get right down to it on a percentage basis, minuscule, 43 out of 2,000. And there was some real question in many examples, and everybody acknowledges this, of whether the lead traces in blood, whether it was children's or adults, came from Flint River water or whether it came from some other source. I mean, for instance, there was one family of 5 with 2 parents and 3 children. One of the children had very elevated lead levels in his or her blood, 7 times, I think, what's acceptable. And the rest of the family, the 2 adults and the 2 siblings, had virtually nothing.
So here's the question, because I had a listener ask this.
Yeah. I mean,
how do we know for sure the source of the lead in Flint? Isn't it possible there are other environmental sources besides the water specifically?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and there's no question. And another thing that's been going on in Flint, unfortunately, and it's happened in Detroit, is demolition of old homes that are filled with lead on a giant scale in Genesee County, not in Genesee County so much, in Flint, and also arson, house fires and houses being burned down, and lead getting into the atmosphere and on the ground from that. There're just a whole range of questions, and nobody's really answered them. There's a school in Flint called Eisenhower School, where children were found to have elevated lead in their blood in these tests. And it turns out that in that school, there were a bunch of aging lead-filled drinking fountains that had been there for years. And I think maybe 10, 15 years ago, most of them were replaced, but there were 7 fountains where the lead fountains were never replaced. So the children have been drinking out of those fountains for a long time.
So there could be a variety of sources.
Exactly.
Now, we're not discounting the fact there's a problem with the water in the city. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying there's some other sources.
Yeah, exactly. And again, we're talking about a small percentage of homes in Flint, and I'm not sure, nobody's ever come up with a map yet that I've seen and shown in Flint where is the discolored water, the foul-smelling water, the bad-tasting water.
Where are the red zones, if you will?
Is there a pattern?
Yeah, where are the red zones, if you will?
Yeah, where are the red
Bill
zones?
Ballenger,
Nobody's come up with that. I can tell you in the section of Flint that I live in, I have a house there. I spend half my week there. There's been, there's no trace of what everybody's raving about on my street.
So your water's fine at your house in Flint.
Yeah.
Your house in Flint is just fine. Bill Ballenger, again, I apologize that we're the ones that break the news to you about you no longer being employed with Inside Michigan Politics, but I will tell you this, Bill.
Yeah.
You are always welcome here. You will always have a place at our table to share your opinions, whatever they may be.
Well, I really appreciate it, Steve. Thank you.
Bill Ballenger, formerly of Inside Michigan Politics, thank you so much.